Singapore, a tiny country so small it's often missed on a world map. Known as the Little Red Dot, it has only 736 square kilometers of land, making it one of the smallest nations on Earth. Out of 195 countries, Singapore ranks 176th in size, barely larger than New York City. To its neighbors in Southeast Asia, giants like Malaysia and Indonesia, it seemed insignificant. Yet today, Singapore stands tall as one of the wealthiest and most influential nations in the world. Let's break it down. Singapore's population is 6 million, big for a city, but small for a country. But size didn't matter when it came to building an economic powerhouse. In 2025, Singapore's nominal GDP reached $548 billion, ranking 26th globally. For comparison, this tiny island generates as much wealth as Thailand, a nation with 11 times its population. The disparity becomes even more impressive when you consider its neighbors. Singapore outpaces countries like Pakistan, Vietnam, and Bangladesh in GDP, despite their massive populations. In Southeast Asia, it's the second largest economy after Indonesia, a country with 45 times the people. How did this happen? Singapore's success is no accident. The foundation was laid decades ago when the nation faced what many thought was its end. When Singapore was expelled from Malaysia in 1965, the mood on the island was bleak. Its people had hoped that merging with Malaysia would provide stability and prosperity, but the union crumbled under the weight of ethnic and political tensions. Singapore's predominantly Chinese population clashed with Malaysia's Malay majority, leading to riots and escalating distrust. Malaysia's Prime Minister, Tunku Abdul Rahman, made the unprecedented decision to expel Singapore, making it one of the few nations in history to gain independence against its will. The situation seemed dire. Singapore was a tiny island with a population of 1.8 million crammed into a space with little room to grow. The country lacked natural resources, no oil, no minerals, not even enough water to meet its needs. Dependence on Malaysia for fresh water highlighted just how vulnerable Singapore was. Adding to the challenges were high unemployment, widespread poverty, and racial tensions that threatened to tear the young nation apart. Kuan Yew, Singapore's first Prime Minister, was devastated by the separation. Yet he refused to let his country succumb to its challenges. In his own words, if big fish eat small fish and small fish eat shrimp, then Singapore needed to become a poisonous shrimp to ensure its survival. This mindset shaped Singapore's future as a country that punches far above its weight. Lee understood that Singapore's survival hinged on its strategic location. Positioned at the Strait of Malacca, it controlled one of the most important shipping routes in the world, a gateway between East and West. To leverage this, Singapore needed to attract international trade and investment. But trade alone wasn't enough. To thrive, Singapore needed unity among its people. The island's population was a mix of Chinese, Malays, and Tamils, with no shared history or sense of nationhood. To build a cohesive identity, the government embarked on one of the most ambitious public housing projects in history. The Housing Development Board, HDB, built affordable apartments and implemented ethnic quotas to ensure every housing block mirrored the nation's demographics. This policy fostered interaction between ethnic groups, reducing tensions and creating a sense of shared purpose. Singapore wasn't just solving immediate problems, it was laying the foundation for a unified, stable, and resilient nation. This period was pivotal in transforming Singapore from a struggling island into a nation with a bold vision for the future. As Singapore's economy flourished, the government continued to refine its policies to ensure long-term success. One of its most controversial approaches was its stance on crime and drugs. Singapore adopted a zero-tolerance policy, with harsh penalties designed to deter crime. Drug trafficking in particular carried a mandatory death sentence. Visitors to the country are even handed warnings before arrival. Any attempt to smuggle drugs is punishable by hanging. While this policy has drawn criticism internationally, it has kept Singapore's streets among the safest in the world. Critics derisively call it Disneyland with the death penalty, but the results speak for themselves. Low crime rates, public safety, and stability. The government's efforts to ensure social harmony were equally bold. The HDB housing program wasn't just about providing shelter, it was a tool for nation building. By offering affordable apartments with long-term leases, the government made homeownership achievable for the vast majority of Singaporeans. Grants and subsidies ensured even low-income families could buy homes, and mandatory savings through the Central Provident Fund, CPF, helped workers save for down payments and mortgages. This housing policy transformed Singapore's society. Today, 88% of homes are owner-occupied, one of the highest rates globally. Home ownership gave citizens a tangible stake in the nation's success, fostering unity and reducing income inequality. Singapore also became a hub for innovation and talent. Its focus on education and workforce development ensured a highly skilled population, ready to meet the demands of a modern economy. Combined with its pro-business policies and strategic location, Singapore became a magnet for global companies and a leader in industries like finance, technology, and logistics. Today, Singapore stands as a model for the world, a nation that defied the odds and turned its vulnerabilities into strengths. Its transformation is a testament to visionary leadership, bold policies, and the resilience of its people. Singapore's story is more than just a tale of economic success. It's an inspiring example of what's possible when a country commits to innovation, stability, and inclusivity. From the little red dot to a global powerhouse, Singapore proves that size doesn't matter when strategy leads the way.